This is the Chris Berry Show. Expert information on wealth, estate, and tax planning for the second half of life. Information that you can understand. Here's your host, Chris Berry.
Welcome to the show. This week, just like every week, we're going to start with a positive focus, something positive that happened within the last week. And I have something professional as well as personal, and it actually kind of bleeds together a little bit. But we did have a very nice workshop. We had a retirement taxes workshop that we did in Livonia this previous week. And we had a great turnout, and I think it's a message that's really resonating with our clients of they've accumulated all this wealth during their lifetime, and a lot of it is in pre-tax dollars. But the concern is that we have this money in our 401ks and IRAs, and then now, especially if taxes are going to go up in the future, which a lot of people think they are, then how do we navigate that maze? What are strategies we can utilize to try to minimize taxes in retirement? And so that's something that we covered, and we had a special workshop just on taxes in retirement where we went over some different strategies like Roth conversions, moving money out of tax deferred to taxable or tax-free accounts. And it really seemed to resonate with our clients. And then personally, one of my good friends, he's actually a police officer, and he's been working at, we won't say what city or township he's in, but he's been there for over 20 years now. He started right out of actually high school. And so now he just had a retirement party, which is crazy to think that someone I know that's my age is retiring from their, I guess, first profession. And it's not to say he's not going to work anymore, but he's moving out of state and looking to do something different. And it just really drives home something that we talk about quite often on this show is planning for the second half of life, is that he's actually about 40 now, and he has a whole life ahead of him. Like his first half was that of being a police officer, and now his second half of life, he has a plan. He's going to do some different things, spend some time with family, but he has a lot of future ahead of him. And so those were my positive focuses. It was just great to see clients understanding just the power of navigating taxes. And then it was great to have one of my good friends and my wife's good friends, seeing him retire, seeing him being able to follow his dreams and come up with something different for the second half of life. This week on the show, I'm very excited to have Patti Gibbons. And Patti, she is a licensed insurance professional, but she's certified with Medicare. So she's going to spend some time going over a very, very confusing concept, a confusing idea of Medicare planning and how to navigate that Medicare maze. And this fits into what we call the 5 pillars of a retirement plan of income planning, investment planning, tax planning, healthcare planning, and legacy planning. So we have income planning, investment planning, tax planning, healthcare planning. That's where Medicare falls in. And then legacy planning, which is that estate planning piece. And all these pieces are very important. And then with each one of these 5 areas, we have to drill down into the particulars. And so with healthcare planning, really we see 2 aspects. One aspect is the long-term care piece of it, of understanding that 1 in 2 individuals will need nursing home care. 3 out of 4 will need some form of long-term care. And then the second piece of it is that Medicare, that health insurance. How are we going to cover the rising cost of prescriptions and health insurance in retirement? Because there's a recent article, I saw this end of last year, and it's public knowledge, but it was an article, about this individual who's a Nobel Prize winning physicist. his name was Leon Letterman, and you can Google it if you want to. But Leon Letterman was 96, and he won a Nobel Prize for subatomic particles. And that's great, but the sad part of the story is that his family had to auction off and sell his Nobel Prize, and they ended up selling it for about $765,000 at an auction. But they had to use it to pay for his medical bills. And the sad thing is this just didn't have to happen. So it just drives home the point that when you're planning for retirement, planning for that second half of life, you need to take into account healthcare planning. And healthcare planning is going to be covering medications and hospital visits, and that's the Medicare piece of things. But also it's covering long-term care costs. Because one of the things, and I don't think Patti will get into this, is that Medicare doesn't really pay for long-term care. It'll pay for short-term rehab. It pays for hospital visits, and that type of thing, durable medical equipment. Those are things covered by Medicare. But Medicare really isn't going to pay for long-term care, where if you're diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's and you need to spend time in an assisted living community or a nursing home, Medicare is not going to pay that ongoing cost. Medicare can pay for short-term rehab, up to maybe 100 days, and then also that's where a supplemental insurance policy could come into play, which I'm sure Patti will cover. But Medicare is not going to pay for long-term care. But it's something that anyone over the age of 65, and then in some situations even before 65, everyone needs to think about how they're going to cover those healthcare costs. So things not covered or things other than the long-term care cost. So things like hospital stays, prescription costs, etc. And that's where Medicare comes into play. So in our second and third segments of the show this week, we're going to have Patti Gibbons talking about Medicare. And I'm sure she'll give out her information. So if you do have questions, you can reach out to her, or you can always ask us questions, where if you email us at askchris@thechrisberryshow.com, then we can get into, if you do have questions or need assistance with something, we'll be able to help you with that. Or you can always give us a call at 810-355-2584. That's the phone number for our radio show. And I did want to introduce or update you on some events we have coming up in the next couple of weeks. So we do workshops about once a week at one of our different locations. In this upcoming November, we have workshops coming up in Livonia as well as Brighton. So in Livonia, November 7th, Thursday, November 7th, Tuesday, November 12th, and Wednesday, November 20th, we're going to have workshops, clarity building workshops, where we talk legal, financial, and tax planning for the second half of life. So Thursday, November 7th at 2 p.m. at our Livonia office, Tuesday, November 12th at 10 a.m. at our Livonia office, or Wednesday, November 20th at 6 p.m. again at our Livonia office, one of our rare evening workshops. And then in Brighton, we're going to be in Brighton on Wednesday, November 6th at 10 a.m., Tuesday, November 12th at 2 p.m., and then Thursday, November 21st at 6 p.m. And if you want some more information on those workshops, just give us an email or shoot us an email at askchris@thechrisberryshow.com, or give us a call at 810-355-2584, or you can just register directly online if you go to www.estateworkshop.com. That'll take you to a list of our upcoming workshops. In this past month, we had a great workshop in Ann Arbor where a couple individuals, a couple of women, came up and said that they love the radio show and that's what made them attend one of our workshops. And I was talking to them as they were leaving the workshop, and they're singing the praises of the workshop, where on the radio show we talk about some general advice, but in the workshops we really dial it into the issues affecting planning for the second half of life, planning for retirement and beyond. And that's why I'm so excited to have Patti Gibbons on the show talking about Medicare, because Medicare, it's one of those areas that's really confusing. And something I'm sure she's going to touch on is that, sure, you can do it yourself, but one of the things you'll realize when you dive deep into Medicare, just like a lot of these other areas, is you just don't know what you don't know. You might be a very smart individual, you might be an engineer, and you're really good at kind of figuring things out on your own. But trust me, as a lawyer and advisor, this Medicare area, unless you're really focusing on it 24/7, spending all your time, all your education on this area, you're going to be missing some things. And I'm sure Patti will go over some of those things as we get into our discussion about Medicare. And it's really important to be talking about Medicare during this time frame, because right now we're in what's called Medicare Annual Enrollment Period, where there is some flexibility in terms of your Medicare planning that you can do right now. And I'm sure Patti will get into why that's important. But that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have Patti on right now, because she really is knowledgeable when it comes to this area. She is certified by Medicare to talk to individuals about their planning. And again, it's one of those things you can maybe figure out on your own, but it's one of those things where it's so important, it's important to get a second opinion. Because with Medicare, just like some of the other things as it relates to Medicare plan or retirement planning, some of these decisions, once you make that decision, it's really hard to undo or really hard to switch gears. For another area similar to that is like Social Security. Based on when you take Social Security or how you file for Social Security, that could put some limitations on what you can and can't do in the future. Similarly, and Patti's the expert, not me, but Patti will talk about how certain plans, once you enroll, it's very difficult to switch plans. Similarly with Social Security, once you apply for Social Security, you have a limited window to get a do-over on that. Where there are some strategies where you can start, stop, restart. But once you file for Social Security, that's kind of a bullet that once you fire that bullet, you can't unfire it. So it's important to get it right. So join me as Patti will come in our second and third sections of the show to talk to us about Medicare. Then I'm very excited because we have a lot of guests coming up on the show. And so in the upcoming weeks, we have Julie Eddings from the Hamburg Senior Center. So she's going to talk to us about kind of the aging process, what we call the elder care journey, and the role senior centers play in this. And there's lots of different senior centers, whether it's you're living in Hamburg or Heartland or Ann Arbor. Almost every community has a senior center, but a lot of people aren't aware of what senior centers do and the role they play in the community. And then the next week, and I think this is the first, I'm going to have someone else from my firm on the show. So we're going to have an attorney, one of our other attorneys, Ashley Jacobs. She's going to talk to us about her role at the firm, but also just talk about her background and her background on helping those with disabilities. Because in our firm, one of the things we do is we help people plan for retirement, and we do estate planning, and we also do something called elder law. So elder law is planning for not necessarily what happens if you pass away, but what happens if, say, you're diagnosed with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or maybe you have a disability, or maybe a child with a disability. Elder law, it's really kind of code name for asset protection. And it's not to make sure anyone else gets some big inheritance or anything like that, but really what we're doing is we're trying to protect assets, whether we're planning for retirement or you have a loved one who has a disability, trying to protect those resources to give that person the best opportunity possible. So that, let's say you had a child who had autism, we would want to make sure that they could receive as much as possible in terms of maybe governmental benefits, so whatever they're entitled to, but then also a pot of resources to improve their life, to make sure that they have the best quality of life possible. And so we're very excited to have Ashley Jacobs, one of our attorneys, talking to us about her role at the firm and then her background in disability counseling as well. She has a counseling background. And I try not to advertise too much for the firm, but really excited to have Ashley on the show. She really is an asset to the team and to our clients. So I'm very excited to have those two guests coming up in the next couple of weeks, because I'm sure you don't want to listen to me blabber on about death, taxes, and incapacity each week. So it's good to have guests on. And this week, very excited to have Patti Gibbons on the show talking about Medicare. We're not talking about Medicaid, we're talking about Medicare. And those two concepts are often confused by people, where people will be talking about Medicaid and they're talking about Medicare, or they think we're talking about Medicare and they talk about Medicaid. So it's important to understand the distinction between the two. Medicare is that governmental program that's available to individuals who are typically over the age of 65, or if they're on Social Security disability, that can help pay for things like short-term rehab, prescriptions, hospital stays, durable medical equipment. Compared to Medicaid, there's lots of different Medicaid programs available. They're not all based on income, or there's this assumption that they're only for low-income individuals, but typically there will be some type of asset test. And we look to Medicaid as a way to help pay for long-term care in a nursing home, versus Medicare would be covering things like short-term rehab. So it's important to understand the distinctions between Medicare and Medicaid. And so if we're looking at a permanent stay in a nursing home situation, then a lot of times we're looking at Medicaid. If we're looking at a fall and we broke our hip and we're admitted to the hospital for 3 days and then discharged for a nursing home for rehab, then we're looking at Medicare. Or if you're looking at prescription costs in retirement, then we're looking at things like Medicare, which, again, is one of those 5 pillars of retirement planning of income, investment, tax planning, healthcare planning, and legacy planning. Medicare is an important piece of that. And it also gets involved with tax planning as well, because based on your income, that's going to determine how much you pay for your Medicare premiums. But join us as we continue this conversation as we bring in Patti Gibbons, who's Medicare certified and will talk to us about Medicare.
If you're looking for guidance in estate planning, make sure you talk with certified elder law attorney Chris Berry from the Elder Care Firm in Brighton, like Brian Measle and his family did.
For quite a long time, I worked on my parents, trying to get them to establish an estate plan or a will or a trust, and they had absolutely nothing in place. We had set a first initial meeting with Chris on a Monday with him, and that Friday afternoon, my mom had passed away, and we had nothing in place. So we kept our meeting, obviously with a heavy heart, and Chris made us feel very comfortable and assured. My dad is a person who doesn't care for politicians or attorneys, and he really likes Chris. Thought it was a fantastic fit for us and our circumstance.
Hello, I'm attorney Chris Berry. The Elder Care Firm is here to help you and your family find solutions. Call us today.
Protect your assets from probate, long-term care costs, the IRS, and get the governmental benefits you deserve. Visit theeldercarefirm.com today or call 810-214-3800.
Welcome to the Chris Berry Show. Very excited to have Patti Gibbons with Gibbons and Associates here with us. How you doing, Patti?
Very good, thanks.
And I'm excited to have Patti on the show because Patti is a licensed healthcare insurance agent, and she's certified with Medicare. Isn't that correct, Patti?
That is right.
All right. So what I thought we'd do today is talk about Medicare. And there's a lot of confusion about Medicare, and I know this is the open enrollment period, but maybe if you could just talk about what Medicare is overall and how that fits into people's lives.
Medicare is a federal insurance for medical services divided into parts A and B. Mm-hmm. A covers the hospital services, B covers, doctors, tests, all that kind of thing. So these are the two parts that people need to sign up for. Those two parts don't cover anything at a prescription, prescriptions that you'd fill at a pharmacy. Mm-hmm. That's covered by Part D. Mm-hmm. So that's parts A, B, and D. Mm-hmm. C is basically A plus B plus possibly D, which is, those are known as Medicare Advantage plans.
Sure.
And for those, you've got health insurance companies that come in, and they are the ones who offer Parts A and B and perhaps D under the oversight of an insurance company rather than directly from Medicare.
Okay. So what you're saying is everyone doesn't have A, B, C, and D. You're going to have some combination of those.
That's kind of right. Yes.
and as you can see, this is why Medicare, just on its face, it's so confusing for people. So how did you get involved in this world?
I was a benefits administrator for a corporation in Detroit for several years. I learned that I really enjoyed explaining benefits to the employees and helping them understand the difference between coinsurance and copay, for example.
Sure.
And so the idea of working with insurance became very attractive, and I learned that becoming an insurance agent was not just about selling products, but it was about educating, as I had always enjoyed doing. That's how I got into it.
Okay. All right. And so right now it's I know the term is the Medicare Annual Enrollment Period. So what is that, and what is that time frame, and why is it important?
Oh, it's very significant. The time frame is October 15th to December 7th. And it's a time period during which Medicare beneficiaries, so people who are already in Medicare, who already have Parts A and B, so for example, they have the option to change the other Medicare products that they might have. So a person who has a Part C plan, a Medicare Advantage plan, during this time of year, they have the opportunity to switch to a different Medicare Advantage plan.
Okay.
They can't do that during any other time of the year unless they have a particular life event. Also, people who have not a Medicare Advantage plan, but perhaps Medicare plus a Medicare supplement insurance plan and a prescription drug plan, people who have that combination, during this annual enrollment period, they can change their prescription drug plan to any other prescription drug plan they might want. They also have the option to switch over to a Medicare Advantage plan and terminate their Medicare supplement insurance plan. So it's complicated, but it's a powerful window because people have a lot of choices that they don't have other times of the year.
Okay, so that was a lot. So just kind of trying to simplify it, if you're on Medicare right now, it's one of those times where you can look at switching around your plans.
Yes. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. And those switches are all free from what's called underwriting.
Oh, okay.
Underwriting is when you have to answer medical questions about your current medical conditions.
Yeah.
And the Medicare Advantage plans and the prescription drug plans do not ask any medical questions. There's no underwriting involved in those plans.
Is there underwriting and let's take a step back. So this is for people already on Medicare, correct? Okay. When does someone apply for Medicare? When does someone enter Medicare in the first place?
Good question. Yes, most people enter Medicare. They what we call age in.
Oh, okay.
When they turn 65.
Okay.
So there is a long enrollment window that they have to enter Medicare at that time.
Sure.
It starts 3 months before their birthday month.
Okay.
Extends through their birthday month and lasts for 3 months after their birthday month.
Okay.
And during that 7-month period, which is called an initial enrollment period, they can enroll in Medicare Parts A and B.
Okay.
And also add the other Medicare products that I've been referring to. However, there are other people who can enter Medicare before they're 65. These people are designated by the Social Security Administration as disabled.
Okay.
And after a certain amount of time, they also are eligible for Medicare.
Okay. And then do you have to enter Medicare at 65, or are you penalized? I've heard that.
Oh, that I get that question a lot.
Yeah.
If a person is still working and covered by an employer group plan, no, they do not need to enter Medicare most of the time.
Sounds very legal. It's like we have the general rule and then all the exceptions, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it has to do with the size of the employer.
Okay.
If an employer has more than 20 employees, then the individual does not have to enroll in Medicare.
They don't have to enroll in any type of Medicare.
No,
Okay.
no. And so then you asked about a late enrollment penalty. Will they get hit with a late enrollment penalty if they enroll in Medicare later?
Mm-hmm.
No, as long as they've been covered by this employer plan. Then they just have to attest to Social Security that they've had coverage since they became eligible for Medicare. And then the late enrollment penalty is waived.
Okay. So do they have to like go to Social Security and kind of opt out of Medicare or?
No.
Okay.
It depends on, it gets involved as to whether or not they've filed for Social Security. Most
okay.
people who are working
Yeah.
have not filed for Social Security. If you
Right.
have filed for Social Security, then you're going to get a card in the mail automatically enrolling you in Medicare. And in that case, if you don't want Medicare, you
Okay.
actually have to take a step to disenroll.
Okay. All right. So, okay. Wow. It is confusing.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So right now we're in this open enrollment period. So this is different for people than entering Medicare. They already have Medicare, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So if a person is, turning 65 next February, for example, they don't have to worry about this annual enrollment period. They're going to have their own enrollment period.
Okay.
Similarly, if someone is retiring, maybe the end of the year or something, they don't have to worry about this enrollment period. They get their own special enrollment period.
Okay. Is there underwriting that that's involved in the open enrollment period or when they first move into Medicare?
No.
Okay.
The only product, that we're talking about here that has underwriting involved is the Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan.
Okay.
And this insurance plan is subject to underwriting most of the time. I'm sounding like you, like a lawyer.
It depends.
Yeah, it depends. It depends
Yeah.
most of the time. When a person first enters Medicare, they get a special guaranteed issue window, and they can get these Medicare supplement insurance plans without answering any medical questions, without being subject to underwriting. However, 6 months after they enter Medicare, that guaranteed issue window ends.
Okay.
So if a person wanted to change their Medicare supplement insurance plan, move to a different plan or move to a different company, then they would have to answer the medical questions.
Okay. All right. So the open enrollment period time is an opportunity for people, even if they have a lot of health issues, they would be able to change plans without having to go through any underwriting?
No. Yeah, no. That if a person has a Medicare supplement insurance plan, those plans are not involved in this annual enrollment period. They're not related to this at all. The only products that are related to this annual enrollment period are the Medicare Advantage plans and the prescription drug plans.
Okay. So not the supplemental plans.
Correct.
And Advantage doesn't cover supplemental plans.
Advantage is like you can have either an Advantage plan or Medicare plus a Medicare supplement insurance plan.
You can have either Medicare Advantage or a supplemental plan.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's why we need people that are certified in this area. I know enough to be dangerous.
It's intricate.
Yeah. So what's the difference between a Medicare Advantage plan and a Medicare supplemental insurance plan?
Normally, I like to be in front of a person with a pad of paper so I can draw this out because it is a little bit hard to explain just verbally, but I'll do my best. So Medicare plus a Medicare supplement insurance plan is a combination of two separate insurance plans. Medicare is primary, and this second Medicare supplement insurance plan is a second insurance plan. So when a person goes to a doctor, for example, they give them those two cards, and the Medicare pays first, and the Medicare supplement insurance plan pays what it's responsible for paying. And there might or might not be anything left over for that person to pay. A Medicare Advantage plan is different in that it is the primary insurer, and when a person goes to the doctor, they hand the doctor's office just that one card. That plan is the primary plan, and it pays what it's responsible for, and then the person pays what's left over, whether it's a copay or a co-insurance, whatever. So there's only one insurance plan paying and the person picks up the rest.
Mm-hmm.
With a supplement insurance, there are two entities paying.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if I can try to restate it. So with the supplemental plan, typically you have like Medicare Part A or B and D and then a supplement.
Yes.
Versus if you have an Advantage plan, you're just going to have an Advantage plan with no supplement.
Correct.
Okay. I think I'm getting it.
Yes. And you have to have Medicare A plus B active. You have to be enrolled
Sure.
in Medicare in order to have a Medicare Advantage plan.
Mm-hmm.
But Medicare is not the authoritative voice. For
Right.
example, it's the insurer, the health insurance company
Okay. All right.
that's in charge.
And I know you can't say one is better than the other. Would you say that there's more people with Advantage plans or more people with the traditional Medicare Part A, B, and D?
It's quite evenly split around the country, where you have some people just with Medicare,
Okay.
with nothing else,
Yeah.
and perhaps Medicaid. Then you have some another approximately third of the country involved with Medicare plus a Medicare supplement insurance plan and a prescription drug plan, and another third with a Medicare Advantage plan. Now, the Medicare Advantage plans are becoming gaining market share
Sure.
because they're very competitive. They're offering quite a few extra benefits that Medicare does not offer.
Yeah, maybe you could talk to why someone would go with an Advantage plan versus pure Medicare. What are
With
the
a
pros
supplement?
and cons? Yeah.
One way to understand it might be that with Medicare plus a Medicare supplement insurance plan, you're paying ahead.
Okay.
So you're paying for the supplement, Medicare supplement insurance plan, whether you're using medical services or not. You're paying a monthly premium for that plan.
Okay.
And then when you do have medical services, you may have little or no out-of-pocket expenses. So you're paying ahead. A Medicare Advantage plan, if you have a nice low monthly premium, then you're paying as you go. So you're only paying for the services that you're using. So I try to encourage my clients not to look at this as a right or a wrong decision, which way they go, because no one knows what your next year's medical needs are going to be. So you don't know what's going to be most cost effective for you. So you're just looking for something that makes you comfortable. If you're the kind of person that likes really stable monthly premiums and you don't like surprises coming if you've got medical activity, then a Medicare plus a Medicare supplement insurance plan might be a good thing for you. If you're the kind of person that does not like to pay for insurance that you're not using, then you might like a Medicare Advantage plan. Medicare Advantage plans, there's another piece that you do have to be careful about. You do need to make sure that you're selecting a plan that includes the doctors and hospitals that you want to use, because there are network issues involved.
Okay. All right. So it's one of those, it's like a legal question. It depends.
It
really
depends.
on where they're coming from.
Exactly.
And so we are we're in this time period of this open enrollment. So what changes can people make right now?
Again, just to, they can change their Medicare Advantage plan to a different Medicare Advantage plan. They can change their prescription drug plan if they've got what's called a standalone prescription drug plan to a different prescription drug plan. And for people who have the Medicare supplement insurance plan combination, they can leave that option and move over to a Medicare Advantage plan instead.
So they have a lot of options available.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, stick with us as we continue this conversation with Patti Gibbons, and we'll get into a little bit more detail about what someone should be thinking about as they're turning 65, and get into a little bit more detail with regards to which plans kind of make the most sense. But again, as Patti said, it really depends at the end of the day, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah. And if someone has some questions, what's the best way to reach out to you, Patti?
My phone number, 248-716-0373. And even better would be an email. My name, Patti, P-A-T-T with an I, at gibbonsllc.com.
Great. And stick with us as we continue the conversation.
If you or a loved one is in need of estate planning, make sure you talk with certified elder law attorney Chris Berry from the Elder Care Firm, like Dave Marsh did from Pinckney.
You hear stuff about attorneys being, crooks and whatever, I didn't know if I could find one that wasn't going to try and, stiff me. So I was really happy to find the Elder Care Firm. They were just really, really helpful. I went to that seminar, and when I would call people, I'd get calls back. They'd answer questions, and I was real happy with it all. They laid out everything it was going to cost me, and, it'd give me a real good peace of mind. I would recommend them to anybody, And I don't recommend a lot of people, but I would recommend them.
Hello, I'm attorney Chris Berry. I can help you develop the best plan possible. Call 810-214-3800 to schedule a free 15-minute phone consultation or to reserve your seat at our next workshop. The Elder Care Firm is here to help you and your family find solutions.
Visit theeldercarefirm.com today or call 810-214-3800.
Welcome back. We're with Patti Gibbons with Gibbons and Associates, and she's a licensed health insurance agent and certified by Medicare, and that's why we have Patti on the show talking about Medicare during this very special time period called open enrollment. So Patti, one more time, let's take one step back as we're having this conversation talking about Medicare, because there's a lot that goes on into this. Even as an attorney and advisor, I rely on people who are certified in Medicare to sit down with clients because there's no way I'm able to talk to them in an intelligent manner. So maybe one more time, talk about most people's different options that they choose as it relates to Medicare.
Okay. Think of Medicare Parts A and B as the foundation.
Okay.
Part A is the part of Medicare that covers you if you have a hospital stay and other things. Mm-hmm. Part B is the part of Medicare that covers doctor's visits, tests, durable medical equipment, things like that.
Sure.
So that's the foundation. You need to have Medicare Parts in A and B in place, and then you have some choices. You can opt to purchase another insurance plan called a Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan to help pay for your costs for medical services. And if you go that route, then you also need to get a prescription drug plan, a Part D prescription drug plan. So that person has 3 cards, a Medicare card, a Medicare Supplement Insurance card, and a drug card.
So you don't necessarily have to have Part D?
Part D is that prescription drug plan piece.
Right.
And that you do need to have that to protect yourself from drug costs and also to avoid a late enrollment penalty.
Okay.
The other option is a person with Medicare A and B active who opts to get their Medicare services from an insurance company through a Part C Medicare Advantage plan. And that person has 1 card. One card that they use at the doctor, the hospital, and the pharmacy.
Okay. Is the insurance company covering the stuff that A and B would normally cover through the government?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. They get their Medicare benefits through the insurance company.
Okay. And then just briefly, why would one go for the Advantage plan versus the traditional plan?
You might like an Advantage plan because you can have maybe a low monthly premium and be able to take advantage of some of the extra values that the insurance companies offer. They offer more benefits, for example, things like dental services or over-the-counter allowances sometimes, or even some of them offer transportation to doctors' offices. They offer things that Medicare does not offer.
And let me ask you this. How would someone decide which plan is better for them?
I think this is really where a licensed agent comes in because the licensed agent who is trained and certified in all of these different areas really understands how it works out in their life and can help a person decide according to their budget, their values, their temperament, all these different things, which solution is going to work well for them, and also advise them as to the implications down the road.
Sure.
So, for example, if you enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan, right when you enter Medicare, you need to understand that the options to move to a Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan as an alternative down the road, that may be impacted by your choice.
Interesting. Yeah. So I'm sure you're kind of like me. You probably have a lot of engineer kind of do-it-yourselfers as clients. Have you ran into any situations with do-it-yourselfers who maybe were looking at one plan but kind of discovered maybe they should go in a different route? Or?
Yes, I do run into that. And I welcome people who like to do their own research because I'm comfortable with that engineer mind. I tell people all the men in my family are engineers, so I really understand this mind. I spoke with a fellow recently who had done a great job of research. Oh my goodness, he had spent a lot of time.
Probably the spreadsheets and everything.
Yeah, the spreadsheets, the data. But as we talked, I was able to clarify and also to filter for him to say, well, yes, that is true. And you also need to take that into consideration. Or actually, what you believe over there, that's incorrect. And that limitation applies. And he was very grateful and said, that my assistants helped him to filter all of the information he had gathered.
Sure.
And he went away from our conversation deciding to pursue one option rather than the one he had originally decided on.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's probably something that happens quite a bit, is you're able to put people in a much better position than if they were to do this on their own.
I find that again and again. As we've just discussed in this interview, Medicare vocabulary is different. The structure is different. It's just so quite unfamiliar, and it's just a boatload of information, and it's hard for people to process it. So it's something that I can come in and streamline and simplify and say, this is how this looks.
Right.
And put it in people's language so that they can, okay, I got it.
Yeah. It's got to be a very valuable service you're providing clients, and I'm sure everyone listening is, well, how much do people have to pay you for this help?
Oh, no, there's no consulting fee. It's not, all licensed agents offer this information. We have to offer this information for free. We get our income from commissions that we receive from the insurance companies. So all of these consultations are no charge.
Okay. All right. And again, if someone has questions on their situation, what's the best way to reach you?
Email or phone call.
Okay.
Email is Patti with an I at Gibbons LLC.com. And my phone number is 248-716-0373. I also have a website.
Sure.
It's gibbonsllc.com. That's GIBBONS.
Okay. And so we're talking now, and it's during open enrollment period. And again, what is open enrollment period and why is it important?
So I'm actually going to correct your phrase here.
Okay. Yep.
Open enrollment is actually the term used for the under 65 products. People that get their insurance through the marketplace, for example, people not on a group plan. The Medicare enrollment period is the annual enrollment period, AEP. That's the actual term for it. It extends from October 15th to December 7th. And
so this is annual enrollment period.
Annual enrollment period. We got to get our right terminology.
Sure.
So, and the applications submitted during this enrollment time are made effective January 1st.
Okay. And so what if someone is turning 65 soon? Do they have to meet the December 7th deadline? No,
they get their own enrollment period, a special enrollment period, and that's exactly what it's called, SEP, Special Enrollment Period. Wait a minute. Did you say turning 65 or retiring? Turning 65?
Yeah. So what if someone is turning 65 soon?
Okay. That's the initial enrollment period. Okay. That's the long one. Okay. 7 months.
7 months.
3 months before you turn 65, the month that you're 65, and 3 months following. That's when you can enter Medicare, get Parts A and B in place, and add all these other whatever combination of products you want.
And then special enrollment
period.
After 65 if you're working?
Yes. So someone who's decided to work past the age of 65, they continue on their group plan, and then they decided to retire or go off their group plan even before they retire, they get a special enrollment period when they can enter Medicare and set up these other products. They get 2 full months after they've left the employer plan to make all of those decisions. They need to think about a couple things while they're working.
Okay.
One is the impact on a health savings account, which is a curious thing that people have to take some thought to while they're working. You wouldn't think that Medicare would affect a health savings account, but people who are enrolled in Medicare are not eligible to contribute to a health savings account.
Okay.
So the person is thinking, well, it's no problem. I'm not enrolled in Medicare.
Right.
Something a little bit odd happens when a person enrolls in Medicare after the age of 65.
Okay.
The Part A effective date is made active retroactively. Up to 7 months, 6-7 months. So their HSA eligibility is impacted and they didn't even know it.
So help me understand that. So let's say someone's 67, right? And they didn't enroll in Medicare because they're still working, and you don't have to enroll, right? You're not penalized if you keep working at a company over 20 employees, right? Did I have that part right?
Right.
Okay. So they're still working, they're over 65, they're contributing to a HSA, health savings account, because they're allowed to, and they're not enrolled in Medicare. And then now they would have a special enrollment period to get on to Medicare when they retire.
Yeah.
And then now what is it? They look back 7 months?
Yeah. So say they want to enter Medicare January 1st.
Okay.
So their Part B effective date would be January 1st.
Okay.
But their Part A effective date might be June 1st of the previous year.
Okay.
So their HSA contributions that they made that year, all of a sudden, some of them become ineligible.
Oh, my
and then
goodness.
they're penalized by the IRS. It can be quite a tangle.
Oh,
so
makes my brain hurt.
it does. So when people call me asking about, do I need to enter Medicare? I'm still working. That's one piece we look at. Are you contributing to an HSA? Put some thought into that.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It makes my brain hurt just thinking about this.
Me too.
Yeah. And I see why you have to be certified in this to be able to give advice on Medicare planning. Because and that's one of those things that no one would even think about.
No.
Like do you know why Medicare Part A would be retroactive? Like, what are they trying to do there?
Well, I don't know why, but I know that it has to do with the premium-free aspect of Part A. It has a $0 premium for most of the people in the country, so they make it retroactive.
Sure. Yeah. And I guess this just shows that all these different pieces fit together. So if you have an investment plan where you're contributing to HSAs and that's part of your tax plan, that also has to be part of your health care plan of looking at when you're going to time Medicare. Otherwise, it's going to throw this tax planning of contributions to HSAs out of whack.
That's right.
Yeah. And so that's why we really focus on just planning for retirement, planning for the second half of life, because there's all these little details. Where what we found is when you're working and accumulating wealth, it's pretty easy. But retirement, it's like there's a lot that goes into it.
We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And we can get impacted by what we don't know.
Right.
So consulting with professionals is a great idea.
Yeah, and that's something that if you're just Googling or looking up Medicare plans, that's not going to be something you're going to know without really working with a specialist or expert. Yeah. So... Okay, so we've talked about kind of the different plans, the Medicare Advantage plan. We've talked about turning 65. You don't automatically have to enroll in Medicare. But maybe let's spend some time, and we talked about it a little bit, but maybe spend some time, what would be reasons why someone would want one plan over another plan? Even if there's different even Part D plans, isn't there? Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't they all also have initials next to them too, or am I imagining that part?
Part D, the PDPs.
Okay.
Okay, they're PDPs, part prescription drug plans.
Yeah.
So every drug plan has to accommodate kind of a structure that Medicare sets up.
Sure.
For example, 2 drugs in every therapeutic category.
Okay.
But they have a lot of freedom to design their plans within Medicare guidelines.
And if I can interrupt you, the Part D, is that through an insurance company? Is it through the government? Where's Part D coming from?
Through the insurance companies.
Okay.
under Medicare regulations.
Sure.
And you can get a prescription drug plan either standalone, if you have a Medicare insurance plan, for example, or bundled in with your Medicare Advantage plan. Okay, so either way, these prescription drug plan pieces, the Part D piece, they've got all these variables. The drug plans can cover more drugs than required. They can put the drugs in whatever tier they wish. So you want to get a plan that takes your particular prescriptions and puts them in the lowest tiers possible to reduce your cost. They network with different pharmacies and pharmacy networks. So if you have a particular pharmacist that you have a relationship, you want to make sure that the prescription drug plan that you choose has that pharmacy as a preferred pharmacy. So that you can still go to your favorite pharmacist and have great cost savings at the same time.
Sure.
So those factors are complicated, and that holds true whether you've got, again, the standalone prescription drug plan or bundled in with an Advantage plan. Now, if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, you also need to take into consideration what doctors and hospitals you want to see because the networks are involved in the cost calculations.
Okay. All right. And so wrapping up, Patti, and I appreciate all this information. If someone's turning 65 right now and retired and looking to take the step into Medicare, what do you recommend they do?
Call me.
Yeah, because obviously there's a lot going on. And so what's the best way to reach you again one more time?
Phone number 248-716-0373. And the email, Patti, Patti, at Gibbons, Gibbons, LLC.com.
Okay. And then the website?
GibbonsLLC.com.
Okay. Well, Patti, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. One thing I've taken away, and this shows up in just about every area of the things that we're talking about, is that we really need to work with an expert. And I think something that you mentioned really hit home is that you just don't know what you don't know. So all the engineers out there, you can do all the spreadsheets you want, but if there's a blind spot, you just don't know it unless you sit down with an expert.
That's exactly right. In all areas of life.
Yeah, it's crazy how that works.
Yes.
So, Patti, again, I want to thank you so much. And one more time, what's your phone number and email?
248-716-0373. Patti with an I at GibbonsLLC.com.
Well, Patti, thank you so much for being on the show. I invite our listeners to reach out to you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Learn more about Chris Berry and how he can help your family by visiting online at thechrisberryshow.com. That's thechrisberryshow.com. You can also call Chris Berry at 810-355-2584. That's 810-355-2584. This program content reflects the opinions of Chris Berry and his guests, not the elder care firm Prosperity Capital Advisors or the Castle Wealth Group, and is subject to change at any time without notice. Content provided herein is for informational purposes only and should not be used or construed as investment or legal advice, or as a recommendation regarding the purchase or sale of any security, or to follow any legal or tax strategy. There's no guarantee that the strategist's statements, opinions, or forecasts provided herein will prove to be correct. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Indices are not available for direct investment. Any investor who attempts to mimic the performance of an index would incur fees and expenses which would reduce returns. All investing involves risk, including the potential for loss of principal. There's no guarantee that any investment plan or strategy will be successful. We recommend that you consult with a professional dedicated to your needs. This program is furnished by the Elder Care Firm.